Okay, I'll admit it. It's basically the middle of June, and I'm already hyped up about Indiana basketball, but you should be too.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, more reactions to the House settlement stuff and how Indiana could be affected. Could sports start to be cut? And what does it all really mean? Plus, Indiana football in the past couple of days has picked up 2 commits in the 2026 class, both pass catchers on the offensive side of the football. But Indiana basketball has posted their first video and photos from practice. This has been a couple of days, but after watching it several times and kind of breaking it down and reacting to what I saw, I'm excited for this Indiana basketball team. And I think if you have been a loyal listener or a loyal watcher to this show, you have heard that and picked up on that already with a transfer portal class that has been ranked top 10, according to some sites. More on that throughout the week. A high school recruit in Trent Sisley, who we talked about yesterday, that I think could find himself in a very important role on this team. And just with the brand new head coach and coaching staff and mentality that is going to be within this program, man, I'm pumped to see what this team is going to be. And so, not that I'm trying to overreact to a video in the middle of June that's about a minute and a half long. I would show you, but I can't for copyright reasons. You can go and find it on Indiana basketball social media pages. But we saw some interesting things in there that I wanted to break down. From a physicality standpoint, from a lean and mean perspective, this Indiana team looks really, really good. No, there's not an Umar Ballo type of player who is big and tall and just kind of filled in, but everybody just looks really solid. You saw multiple players shooting threes. We saw guys getting up and dunking the basketball, one of them being Trent Sisley, who looks good at 6'8", just over 215 pounds. And so you saw a lot of exciting moments in this little hype video, which was the purpose of it, of course. But I just get this feeling that this team's going to look different. I have a sense that they're going to be built different. They're going to play different. They're going to act different. And the quote that stands out to me, that was from Darian Devries in the video. He says, "Let's have fun." He said, "It's supposed to be hard, but I want you to have fun while we do it." And if you heard the way he said it, if you looked at his face when he said it, this wasn't a, man, let's just have a good old time. Let's just hold hands and sing Kumbaya. No. He said, guys, enjoy this moment. Enjoy the process. Let's enjoy what we're doing, but it's going to be hard work. And I think that's something that was lacking from the previous regime, was a team that was willing to work as hard as it could, be the hardest playing team out there, which we've heard DeVries talk about as well, about how he wants this team to be the hardest working team, to be somebody or to be a representative of never leaving it in your pocket, right? Always leaving it on the floor and never having a doubt of who the harder working team was. But I think that quote to his squad is saying, look, this is going to be a process and it's going to take some time. But man, if you don't enjoy what you do, it's going to be a miserable experience. And that goes for anything in life, right? It goes for a job. It goes for your friends or your hobbies or whatever the case may be. And if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to be good at it. And I just feel like we lacked that last year, especially down the stretch, was a team that was having fun, right? In the year, sure, winning brings that. Fun comes with winning. There's no doubt about it. But if you're not enjoying practice every day or workouts every day or simply being together every day, you're not going to perform at your best. You're not going to be the team that you can be. You're not going to reach your full potential. And so I think that's what he was meaning by that. And so hopefully with a team full of transfers who have not played together before and a high school recruit who's joining them, hopefully they get to do that this summer. And just a reminder that this squad's going to be going to Puerto Rico in August to hopefully do a lot of that. Hopefully have some team bonding and some good experience of playing against some all-star teams over there and just kind of seeing where you are. But no, overall, this was a just a cool little video. Again, I can't show it, but go check it out on their social media at Indiana Basketball, and you'll see some guys shooting threes. Tucker is in there. You'll see a couple of dunks. You'll see him going through drills, and some of the coaches getting after it. I mean, it just gets me ready and excited for what this basketball season and what this basketball team can be. And I don't know, man. I have a hunch that we're going to be better than people give us credit for. And I think you're going to see a team that has more energy, is having more fun, is a little bit more focused at times too, and maybe holds each other accountable. Maybe is a team that gets on one another, but in a supportive, helpful way, not in a, man, what the heck are you doing type of way. Just seems like those are the things that need to change from multiple years past, not even just last year, but several past Indiana teams who just haven't been where they needed to be mentally or physically. And I just think Darian Devries and this staff are going to bring that differently to this squad. And so, again, it's a minute and a half or something like that video in the middle of June. By no means am I saying, yeah, book it. National champions off this one video. The Hoosiers are fixed. Everything is fine. We're going to win the Big Ten. We're going to be the #1 overall seed, and we're going to make it to the national championship game and dominate. No, I'm not saying that at all, but it is fun and exciting and cool to get our first real views of this team. And I expect to get several more over the next couple of months. And then hopefully there is some way to watch or stream or keep up with somehow the games that they're going to be playing out of the country. I have not seen anything about that. So if you have, or if I've missed it, let me know in the YouTube comments. But hopefully we get an opportunity to see them a little bit. And then the season's going to be here before we know it, man. October rolls around, November's here, and then boom, the season will begin. But I think this is going to be a fun team to watch, a team that gets up and down the floor, a team that scores a bunch of points and is going to be in a lot more games than we've seen in the past. And man, I'm not asking you to win them all. I'm asking you to compete in most of them. And we haven't seen that recently. The losses have been bad. The wins have been stressful. And there's been very few upsets for this squad and this program as a whole. It's time for that to change. And I think Darian Devries and this staff and this team can be the ones to kind of bring us out of this lull that we've been in and start to turn the tides a little bit. So go check out that video. We'll hopefully see some more, break some more down, keep making some roster predictions and things. But I'm excited about this team. And I'm just telling you, you need to be excited about it too. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll flip over to football where Curt Cignetti and the staff get 2 commits in the class of 2026 as that whole recruiting class is quietly climbing up the rankings. We'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances in the NBA Finals, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and once the game has begun. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And so if you think a player's going to go off, if you think a team's going to win by double digits like we saw in Game 2, or you think another upset is brewing, you can get in on the action and try to make $1 with FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, now's the time to sign up, because if you go to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet, if it wins, they're going to give you $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here. Again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. We'll talk more on the house settlement stuff in the third segment about what it actually means and, again, how Indiana could be impacted by this and how long it's going to take for us to see all the effects of this. But in the world of football for Indiana, 2 more commits have been added to the class of 2026. One was over the weekend. One happened yesterday on Monday. and it's two offensive players for the Indiana Hoosiers. We'll start with the one that happened a couple of days ago now, where a three-star tight end in PJ MacFarlane, he has committed to the Hoosiers, a three-star tight end out of the state of Ohio. He's 6'5", 215 pounds from Ohio, a top 50 tight end in the class of 2026. He's also a top 40 player in the state of Ohio, and he joins a list of guys where a very good representative of states in this 2026 class. We've talked a lot about that, how Indiana has gone outside of the Hoosier state and gone to get some pretty good players. And the other kid we're going to talk about is also from out of state too. And so again, 6'5", 215, chose Indiana over several Power 4 schools. And he talked about in several interviews about how much he loved the coaching staff, how much he loved the visit. And he took a visit and basically committed coming out of that visit, and talked about how they made him a priority and how he just felt the love. And I mean, my goodness, that has been a huge and very commonly said thing about kids that come and visit Indiana football. And I know that some of you are going to hear three-star tight end and say, well, first, he's a three-star, he's not all that good. And second, it's a tight end. How important can it be? Well, I think you're going to see this year for Indiana football that tight ends are going to be a pretty important part of this offense. I'm curious to see what the two tight ends that Indiana brings in or has brought in this year through the transfer portal. What is their role, right? The Tennessee kids coming in, and you're in a stacked receiving room, yes, but you can't just fully abandon the tight end. And we saw Indiana use the tight end position last year when need be, third and middle, in the red zone, which Indiana had a lot of big plays, but in the red zone, you have a tight end option as well, or just use them as a blocker. And so that's what somebody like MacFarlane can do for you. And clearly, he sees the upside of playing tight end at Indiana. He sees the upside of being a part of an offense that I think could repeat its success from last year this year. And then for his sake, hopefully can repeat that in 2026 and beyond. And so three-star tight end again from the state of Ohio. He joins the recruiting class for Indiana alongside some news that we got on Monday, which was a wide receiver, a three-star in the 2026 class with Cortez Rupert has now joined and committed to the Indiana Hoosiers. He is 6'1", 165 pounds. So not the biggest, but boy, is he quick. 5'11", 155, 160 kind of in there. He is someone who is from Illinois. He is somebody who came on an official visit last weekend, or I guess this past weekend, and is now an Indiana Hoosier. So for those of you keeping score at home, that's two more commits to the class of 2026. Indiana now has 12 in the class of 2026. And as of this recording, with the commits that the Hoosiers have, according to 247, which is the site that I like to use, it's a top 25 class right now in the college football world. Top 25 for Indiana. Long way to go, yes. But the Hoosiers have several commits. And sure, you've got a couple of 4 stars and you've got a lot of 3 stars, but man, I don't care. I don't care. You're in a position right now with somebody like MacFarlane or with Cortez Rupert, who I'll tell you more about in just a moment. You're in a spot right now where you hear the term quantity over quality. Oh, the Hoosiers are just trying to get their hands on everybody. They're not worried about how good they are. They just want to get as many as possible. I agree with the first half. You are getting quantity, but you're not giving up the quality to do so. These are 3-star guys who you can develop and make into much better players. Not that they're not good in high school. They're just not getting the love and the attention as some of the other kids in their class or some of the other kids in their state. It's hard, man, especially in the tight end or receiver position. We know tight ends don't normally get a ton of love, and there's about 1 million receivers in a recruiting class. And so I think the Hoosiers have just decided, look, we're going to go and get guys that we think fit our system, guys that fit our program, guys that fit our narratives. They're going to come and take a visit. And if we like them and they like us, we're going to take them and see what we can do. I think we should trust Curt Cignetti and this staff. We've seen what they did with a recruiting class and a transfer portal class, you took a team to the college football playoff. I expect that to be a lot of the similar type of stuff in terms of usage and development and things like that. And so I'm excited about MacFarlane, also excited about Rupert, again, the 2026 receiver from the state of Illinois, chose Indiana over Purdue, Michigan State, teams like that. And so the Hoosiers up to 12 now in the class of 2026 and a top 25 class. Will it stay that way? Honestly, I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I think it has a good chance, though. I think it has a really good chance to stay top 25 and continue to grow because a lot of these big programs, they want 20, 25, 30 kids in their class. And now with all the revenue sharing stuff that we'll talk about here in just a little bit, I mean, this is all going to change, but really excited about what both of these guys bring to the class. And just to kind of give you a reminder of what's in here, you've got the 4-star Jay Timmons, the safety from Pennsylvania, Gabe Hill, the 3-star defensive lineman from Illinois, Henry Olinger, the 3-star linebacker from Ohio. You have, who was supposed to be on a visit this past weekend, but had that canceled for believe he's track. I believe it's a track athlete that he was competing in an event, so he canceled his visit. But nothing to be concerned about there. Casimir Hicks, the 3-star corner from Indianapolis. Jacob Savage, we remember him, right? The linebacker from Kentucky, 3-star. All of these are 3-star. I'm about to read. Trevor Gibbs, the edge from Indiana. Sam Simpson, the offensive lineman from Wisconsin. Still really excited about that. The fact that you're getting big boys from Wisconsin. Big time stuff there. PJ MacFarlane, tight end we're talking about now. Blake Smith, the D lineman from Indiana. You have Mondo, the offensive tackle from Wisconsin. Another one. There you go. Cortez Rupert, who we're talking about here, the receiver from Illinois. And then Rodney White, the defensive lineman from Maryland. And so quantity, man, you're getting lots and lots of recruits on campus, and you're getting a ton of them to commit as well. You're going to get a couple of more 4-stars, and you're flirting with some 5-stars, even in the class of 2027 as well. And yes, I'm talking about football. I promise I'm talking football here. Indiana is making a name for themselves and continuing to lay the groundwork for hopefully the future of the program. But I'm excited about the tight end, PJ MacFarlane, and the receiver, Cortez Rupert, both in the class of 2026, now up to 12 total commits and a top 25 class in 2026. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers final segment, we'll talk more on the house settlement stuff and, my goodness, what it means, how it impacts Indiana, and how much do we really know? And how long is this all going to take to settle itself out? We'll do our best to break it down a little bit more right after this here on Locked On Hoosiers. All right, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you making this your first listen or your first watch every day, because all of my everydayers, you know who you are, and I appreciate you making that so. And so if you are listening on the audio side of things, make sure that you are following us over there. You've got your notifications turned on, subscribe if that's an option, and make sure you're sending this to somebody who doesn't already listen, someone you haven't sent it to. Maybe it's your boss, or maybe it's the, I don't know, the bus driver or something. I don't know. Send it to anybody that's an IU fan that doesn't already watch or listen every single day. So make sure you are doing that on your audio platforms. And then for my YouTube audience, if you are watching the video side of it on YouTube, make sure that you like the video. That helps it get out there, tells us that you like what's going on. Also, drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. It can be about basketball, about the recruiting class for football, or this house settlement stuff, what your thoughts are on NIL, revenue sharing, and a whole lot more. Drop those thoughts in the YouTube comments. And then if you have not subscribed to the channel already, I would really appreciate it if you would do that. All right, so as we wrap up here in the final segment of the show, still just trying to break down, evaluate, kind of simplify มีthe house settlement stuff that happened last Friday night, something that goes into effect on July 1. And it's the conversation right now, because everybody's trying to figure out, okay, what exactly does this mean? What exactly does this mean for Indiana football, Indiana basketball? And my concern is all the other sports here in Bloomington, because at most major schools, most major athletic departments, Football is obviously the most profitable. Men's basketball normally makes some money. Baseball, depending on where you are, some of those SEC schools, they do break even. And then every other sport on campus doesn't make money. It costs money to run a soccer program or a volleyball team or a track and field team. It costs money, and you don't bring in enough revenue to make it profitable because of travel and food and equipment and uniforms and all the things that it takes to run an athletics team, recruiting, right? All that sort of stuff. They just don't make a profit. They don't bring in the money necessary. And so there's a lot of concern. And I think there should be some concern with Indiana fans who are fans of more than just football or basketball. And I'm talking about women's basketball, yes, about some of these sports going away because these athletic departments, like Indiana, are going to be left with a decision. They're going to have to divvy out the money that they are allowed to use or allowed to spend, I should say, which is up to 22% of your revenue can be shared, right? You can spend on athletes. You can pay them from high school recruiting or the transfer portal or whatever. You can pay them directly with a check, direct deposit, cash, whatever the case may be. So you're going to have to figure out, okay, where's our biggest ROI? Where is our money best well spent? And unfortunately for the smaller sports, they're going to eventually get left out. And I'll be completely honest, I still don't know where Title IX fits into all of this. There's going to be lawsuits just out the freaking wazoo because you're going to have athletes who claim that they deserve it or didn't get paid or whatever. And they're having to pay backwards for athletes who would have made money if this would have been a rule, which is so crazy to me. I don't agree with that idea, but that's a whole separate topic kind of. But I think for Indiana, right, the question that I've come up with is how much of that money, it can be up to, I believe, 20 and a half, $21 million, something like that. How much of will you spend that much if you're Indiana? Because I don't know if we make enough to make it to that level every single year. That's a lot of money you're talking about. But let's say the number's 20 million just for easy math. Okay, how much of that do you put towards football? How much of that do you put towards men's basketball, your two biggest sports on campus? And then what do you do with the rest of it? Do you continue to fund a volleyball team, a softball team, a baseball team? Or do you go and get that five-star point guard instead? Do you go get a quarterback? Do you go get a starting offensive lineman? Do you go get a safety? Do you pay more money for the sports that make you money? Financially, it just makes sense. And I'm curious for the Hoosiers, when you just focus on the two main sports, basketball and football making the most money like it does at most other schools, what percentage of that 20 million, again, if we're just using that base number, what percentage of that do you put towards each? Because schools like Indiana, Kentucky, Kansas, Duke, they have football and they make money on it and the fans support it, but they're basketball schools. We are a basketball place. That's no secret for us and all those other schools that I just named. So will you see programs like us put a little bit more money towards basketball and give up some success in football? Yeah, probably so. But will somebody like Kurt Signetti stand for that? Will they let that happen? Will they just let it go and be okay with it? Or will they raise hell about it? I don't know. That's the concern that I have because we're just now getting football off the ground. And we're still a long ways away from that truly competing at the highest level. But I don't want one sport to suffer for the other one to succeed when we're talking these two in a vacuum. I've fully accepted that the smaller sports are going to suffer, and I hate that, but there's nothing we can do. Unfortunately, there's just nothing we can do about it. But what I don't want, and I may be in the minority here, to be honest, I don't want football to build some momentum and then just absolutely get crushed because the Hoosiers say, we're going to put money in basketball and just dominate there. A lot of you may be opposite of that, and that's fine, but I want both sports to be competitive. Question is, do you have the finances to do it? That's the question here. All of this has to be figured out. And July 1 is when the floodgates are apparently going to open, and every school will be different. Every athletics department will be different. Every program will be treated differently across the country. There will not be one cookie cutter solution to all of this. But then you've got to figure out revenue sharing. You have to figure out NIL. You have to navigate the illegal money that you're going to pay athletes, because that's just how it goes. That's no secret. Let's not be dumb here. All of that has to be navigated for however long this goes on. And so I just think Indiana's going to have to decide where they spend their money, what percentage goes to each, and how much you want to spend every year. And if you figure that out and maybe have some sort of a formula, cool, then you go from there. But it could be an ever-changing thing, a revolving door of managing your money, saving up for 1 year, spending less this year to save up for next year, and then going and getting the 5-star shooting guard compared to the 4-star quarterback. Man, I don't know. It's so confusing, and there's so much legal jargon to try to sift through. And I'm just starting to spit out questions and ideas that I've written down that I'm going to hopefully get the answer to, and hopefully that you can get the answer for also. So I don't know, man. Lots more to learn on the revenue side of things, revenue sharing side of things. But again, Indiana picks up 2 football commits. We've got video for basketball, and June is an important month. And so we're excited to be here, happy to be here, putting in some work and time for you in the offseason. But that is it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your support in the offseason, but there's always stuff to talk about. And so make sure you're following on social media on X at Locked On Hoosiers. Make sure you're following us on your audio platform and subscribed on the YouTube channel. Okay, we're back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.